Can you see me in the screen?
Well,
Am I off to
just a little bit off.
better?
Yes.
Okay. Hi everyone, I'm coming to you from Dunedin. Did I say that right?
Yes, you
Okay.
did.
Dunedin, New Zealand. And we're doing the naileyes and social media class, so we're giving you guys just a quick peek into the class. Alright, so back to this. The inspiration database can be anything. It can be pictures that you've taken on your phone. It can be pictures that you keep in an album. However, your preferences. It can be fabric swatches. Is scrapbooking big here?
A little bit.
Yeah. So like at the craft stores where you can get tons and tons of scrapbooking paper, you can have an album full of scrapbooking paper for inspiration. Wrapping paper, when the holidays come around, you can snip pieces of wrapping paper for inspiration. So then when that client comes in and she's like, oh, just do whatever, you can say, okay, let's look through my inspiration database and see what we can find for your nail fashion. Does that sound cheap?
Yep.
Sounds cheap?
Well, as in it sounds inexpensive for us as designers.
For you as a designer.
Totally.
For the
us.
customer?
No.
No way.
No.
We want them to pay for that design work. We want them to pay for the time that you take to design the nails. Because it took time for you to come to class.
Yeah.
Class wasn't free. The nail art products are not free. And the time that you take in the salon to do the design has value.
Yeah.
Your time has value. So it's not even just about the products, it's about your time. Because if you're taking time in the salon, what are you missing out of while you're working? Do your kids have to be at school or in daycare? Are you missing time away from your spouse? Are you missing time that you could be watching TV or faffing about? Like, you're in the salon to earn a living, not just to see how much time you can spend hanging out at the salon, right? So by having that inspiration database, doing your design consultation, and letting them know what the process is for your nail fashion, it adds value to that service in their mind that they might not have seen if you were just like, all right, are we doing some nail art today?
Yeah.
Right? And it's not even that it's a bad thing to say nail art, it's just that so many people have a negative perception of nail art as a word that it's easier to just influence them with different verbiage.
Yeah.
So then looking at, we already chatted about nail fashion. Skin tone is another thing that is really important for you to know as a nail professional. Did any of you learn that in training? Yeah? Yeah? No?
It was a long time ago.
It's been a day or two. So skin tone is basically the coloration under the surface. So if you would look at me, you would probably think, oh, she's a really cool skin tone because I've got freckles and a little bit of red hair. But if you take a closer look, there's actually a little bit of yellow underneath there as well. So I'm actually a neutral. I can get away with gold or silver. If you have someone that comes in and they're wearing gold jewelry and it really pops off their skin, there's a strong contrast, then that's an indication that they're probably a cool skin tone because the gold contrasts. If the gold complements, chances are good it's a warm skin tone. And then the opposite is true with silver.
Yeah.
By judging the skin tone, we can help with color selection. So instead of sending them over to the wall of color and letting them pick a color, we can ask, what color family are you in the mood for today? And if they're in the mood for a red, if we had let them go pick a color off the wall, let's say they have a really cool skin tone, and without knowing anything about color, they go ahead and pick a cool red. That warm skin tone, that cool red, is not going to complement the skin. It's going to look a little weird. And then they're going to go home and they're going to be like, I don't know what it is, and I don't like this color, because it doesn't complement the skin tone. And we've all seen that when you go shopping. Lipstick is a huge culprit. You look at lipstick in the store, it looks amazing, you buy it, you get home, you put it on, you're like, ugh, what is wrong with this lipstick? But then you give it to your friend because you have no use for it, it looks terrible, and it looks amazing on your friend. It's so unfair. Yeah. And all it is coming into skin tones. You probably picked the opposite. It was warm or cool, whereas you were the opposite of what the lipstick was, so it didn't complement. The same can be true for nails. So by not letting them select a color off the wall, I can control if they're going to be happy with their color, because I can pick it to match the skin tone. So kind of give yourself a refresher if it's been a little while since you've done skin tones. Get a little bit of a refresher so that you can use that to help them select colors. It can also help for selecting nail fashion. If I have, let's say we have a warm skin tone person and she really wants those nails to be like super obvious. You've seen the trend where people were doing white toes and white nails on really warm skin, but it made the nails just pop. You noticed the nails before you noticed anything else, and that's because they were contrasted. So if you have someone that wants their nails to be very, very obvious, then knowing your skin tones is going to allow you to pick the opposite color of their skin tone and make it really contrast. Visual texture. What do you think that means?
Like those toes on there.
Yes.
That's visual texture.
Exactly. Visual texture would be something like frosted glass. If you look at it, it looks like it has texture. If you look at her shirt, the little fringy ruffles look like they have texture. Can you always put something textured on the client's nails? No. Sometimes they're going to pick it off, right? So with visual texture, you can create texture with your colors so that it looks like there's texture, but you don't feel any texture. Questions? Are you like... All right. What do you see here? Visual texture. Colors, patterns, shapes. So you can see all different types of things in that. And each of these are taken from fabric. So those were all someone's shirt, someone's little wrap on the cruise, all different things, but they're all fabric. If we look at just this one, oops, just kidding. I can't blow it up like it can on the iPhone. It's not a phone. So if you look at this one, would we have to do green, black, and white? No. You could take any 3 colors that you enjoy that contrast each other and get that same concept of design. If you look at this one, would we have to make the purple, white, and black in those shapes? No, we can just go, oh wow, purple, black, and white look really good together. I think I'm going to do a design using those 3 colors. If you look at this one, do you have to do what looks like skeleton teeth across the nails? No. Did you even see the skeleton teeth? Right? It's what I got out of it from looking at it. Maybe you got spots. Maybe you got stripes that aren't smooth. So in looking at that, maybe we decide to do a gray nail and we do alternating white and black spots because we're inspired by the visual texture and the color. Or maybe we don't like any of those colors and we decide to do light blue, dark blue, and medium blue. Or maybe we don't like blue and we do it with 3 shades of pink. Make sense?
Yep.
All right. If you look at the flower, do we have to draw a flower? No. What if we zoom in on this little spot in the center of the flower and we take the fan brush and we polish the nail white, we put a dark color over the top of it, and we fan brush that dark color so that we get that visual texture that the flower has. Looking at this one, you can see patterns in the fabric. Do we have to exactly copy those patterns and draw that whole piece? No, you could zoom in to just one of the spirals and do a spiral on the nail. If you wanted to add some detail, maybe you could do the dots inside that it has, or maybe you could make the spiral out of dots altogether and skip the lines. So naileyes isn't about duplicating. It's about deriving inspiration from something and then doing it. So let's play with these designs and come over if you guys want to hang out over here. And let's do a couple nails just using those pictures. I'm gonna grab our Facebook friends and bring them over right quick. All right. And if you lot watching on Facebook have questions, I'll answer them after class. So just leave your questions in the comments if you like. All right. So looking at the nail that has the blue fabric, let's do that on this dark color here. And let's say, see how the fabric has kind of an ombre tie-dyed look to the background? So let's take a little bit of transfer foil to get our background. There we go. Like, this is what happens when you forget to get out the scissors. Okay. So I want to create a background that has some texture. I'm going to need to throw a coat of shellac on that nail so that it will pull the transfer foil. And any gel polish or transfer foil adhesive will work. Just going to get a nice thin layer and throw it in the lamp. Now, if you have a lamp that has texture to the surface of where you put the hands, a stamping plate stuck in your lamp will give you a flat surface to set your nail tip on. The handy thing about shellac is it leaves the finished surface just sticky enough to pull transfer foil perfectly. You want to make sure that the design part of the transfer foil is facing you to get it to come off. And if we're going to have that finished look, what would be a good contrast color to the color that's on the tip? White would be a great contrast. So let's grab some white. We might end up needing some sparkles as well. Right? Like, how do we survive without sparkles? I'm just going to take the transfer foil and crinkle it up a little bit so that it doesn't make huge chunks, and just tap it all over the nail. And then I have kind of a random background similar to that, but not exactly like it at all, right? Then we're going to use our white. These trays also make handy palettes. Put a little bit of white on there. The trick to drawing curves is to use a striping brush to roll the polish into your striping brush and use a light touch. Let's say that I don't want to do exactly those little swirls. You don't have to. How about if we do some partial curves? Just randomly coming out of the edges. Now let's say I really like those dots. Dots add a lot of visual texture. You can come in with a dotting tool or a detail brush and add the dots wherever you like. Is that a complicated design? Excuse me. No, it's very, very simple. And it doesn't look anything like the picture, but the elements are derived from the picture. You can see where the inspiration came from. We're going to cure that white so that we can put sparkles on it. Maybe. Helps if you push the button all the way down. If you're using shellac, you can clean out your art tools with alcohol. If you're using normal nail polish, you can clean out your tools with acetone. And could you make that design more complicated if you want to? Mm-hmm. Absolutely. You can add more detail, you can add more shapes to the design. It's completely customizable. And that's the beautiful thing about nail eyes, is it caters to your skill level. So if you're a really advanced artist, you can do much more complicated work. If you're a basic artist, you can do something more basic and still get inspiration from the same thing. So your interpretation of that and your interpretation of that are going to be completely different. And that's the great thing about it. Also, if two clients come in with the same Pinterest picture, because we're using it as inspiration instead of duplicating it, we can find that you still have different looks, all from the same inspiration. Just to make this a smidge more fun, I'm gonna grab some glitter and just press it on there. And glitter adds to the visual texture. So now we have the transfer foil that gave us visual texture, we have the dots that gave us visual texture, and we've added glitter that gives us visual texture. Just knock off the excess. And it's ready to top coat and be done. You guys see it okay? Sparkle, sparkle. Alright, I'm gonna zoom in on the inspiration for you that joined us. That is what we use. So that was the inspiration. That is the finished nail. You guys want to say hi to the Americans?
Hi.
Or anyone else that popped in? Hello. Hello. We're still missing part of our class. The traffic is crazy in Dunedin this morning. Okay. Let's take this a different direction. Let's use that same thing for inspiration. Let's go on this blue one. What is going to complement the blue? Look fairly similar to it. How about a medium blue? Or a dark blue? What about dark gray? Yeah, let's go with dark gray. No, you're fine. Let's take the dark gray and do something with that. Looking at the design, there's kind of a tie-dye effect in the background. So what if we do an effect? What if I just polish a couple spots on the nail, take a fan brush and flick it across. Now what do we have? Visual texture. You guys see the texture in that? We're going to slide that in and cure it. While that cures, let's think about what else we could do to it that we are getting inspiration from the nail. What if we did some sort of slightly marbled design to get the funny little wave shapes inside of that diamond? Think that would be fun? What will make marbling with shellac easier is a thin coat of original top coat. And let's do the marbling with this other shade of blue. So we're keeping our contrast low to make it slightly more conservative. So if you have someone that's like, oh, I don't really want my nails to stand out a lot, but I would love to have a design on them, you can always go with a conservative color scheme. Whereas this really pops off the nail. The transfer foil and the glitter are very sparkly, they're very eye-catching. With this, that gray to blue is much more subtle. Snag, oh, top coat. We're going to put a very thin layer of top coat over the nail. And you can see that as it encases that visual texture, it really enhances it. See how it really brought the contrast of the colors out? Then very lightly clean off your brush and just put kind of a few random dots of your lighter blue. Then you can use a striping brush, a dotting tool, whatever makes you happy, and just pull that. And I'm going to make those little curvy shapes. And it's a very subtle marble design inside of that. So it's conservative. It doesn't have to always jump out. And does it look anything like the picture? Nope. The closest resemblance it has to the picture is we used some blue. However, we got the elements of that design from the picture. What if we want some contrast? What if she's like, oh, this is really cool. I actually want it to stand out a little more. Excellent. She wants a little more contrast. We can come in and add a smidge of white or silver or anything that kind of pops out on the blue and gray. And you can see it kind of spread a little bit because it's in the top coat. And we can just pull that right through where we went before. And it adds to the contrast. And see how the background texture really brings out the foreground texture? Let's say we want a little more detail. How about we take a smidge of white? And I just love the dots in that design. The dots make me happy. So I'm going to pick up the detail brush and do some dots. So it's really just about what you feel when you look at that image, what your client feels when they look at that image, and interpreting that into nail fashion. You want to play? All right. So let's have a play. You can pick from any of those 5 designs and do 2 nails using the inspiration from those designs. Thanks for joining us, guys. Follow over on the Creative NZ page. We'll pick up there in about half an hour.